Hey, hi, how are you? Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name's Emma. I like all things theater. So we're gonna talk about Patti LuPone today. If you don't know who she is, just Google her. You'll figure it out. I really wanted to read the New Yorker article that came out on May 26th, titled, Patti LuPone is done with Broadway and almost everything else. The 76-year-old theater diva, famed and feared for her salty bravado, dishes on Hal Prince, her non-friendship with Audra McDonald, and sexy but dumb New York Rangers. Fascinating. Let's find out more. Granted, I already know what happened when it came to the beef with her remarks in regards to Audra McDonald and Keisha Davis. We all know what the end product is going to be, but apparently right when I was setting up to film this, she has addressed an apology. So we're going to be looking at that after this too. But I really wanted to read the article. I've only seen little snippets of it here and there. Sorry if you hear Boo in the background. She really gets very active when I film. Not annoying whatsoever. Sit back, relax, get some coffee or tea, and let's read through this together. I'm just curious what she said. Okay, let's see here. Patti LuPone stood in a midtown recording studio one spring afternoon talking to Carrie Bradshaw. LuPone, who descends from what she calls Sicilian peasant stock, had filmed an arc on the upcoming season of And Just Like That as the blah 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 blah. I do not care about this. Thank you for including me, honest to God, LuPone said, and just, think of me because I don't want to be on stage anymore, period. Girl, this was almost like a queen proclaiming her abdication. LuPone is Broadway's reigning grande dame, sure, with a big voice and an even bigger mouth, lol. No pun intended, I assume. She's one of the city's last living broads, brassy, belty, and profane, with the ferocity of a bullet train coming right at you. She's as famous for playing musical theater's Iron Ladies, Eva Perón in Evita, Rose and Gypsy, as she is for other offstage rumbles. I love how it's just those two roles that he lists. Just two. Hilarious. She fought with Andrew Lloyd Webber, who in the 90s replaced her with Glenn Close in his musical Sunset Boulevard. LuPone trashed her dressing room, sued his company, and used part of the settlement to build herself a pool, which she christened the Andrew Lloyd Webber Memorial Swimming Pool. I did not know that. That was not in her memoir. Granted, I haven't read her memoir in 20 years now? She's fought with co-stars. In her memoir, she called Bill Smitrovich, sorry if I'm saying that wrong, who played her husband on the TV drama Life Goes On, a thoroughly distasteful man. Smitrovich, she's a very, very guileful woman. She has even fought with audience members. She once palmed a cell phone from a texter's hand mid-play. In 2022, during a talkback for the musical company, she berated a spectator, "Put your mask over your nose. That is the rule. If you don't want to follow the rule, get the fuck out." Ask her about Madonna, a movie killer, or Real Housewives. I really don't want to know about those trashy lives. Girl, it was a TV show. And you'll get a zinger worthy of Betty Davis, one of her heroines, along with Edith Piaf. Interesting. Wow. Two very different performers. Okay. I prefer to be flawed to be perfect, she told me. Her bluntness had made her a kind of urban folk hero. On the Tony Awards red carpet in 2017, she declared that she would never perform for President Trump. Asked why, she responded, "Because I hate the motherfucker. How's that?" The clip went viral, as it should. I will agree to that, Miss LuPone. I'll drink to that. At 76, LuPone has acquired an unlikely cool factor. Since winning her second Tony for Gypsy in 2008, she's played herself on Glee, Girls, a bathhouse singer on American Horror Story, and an occultist on Penny Dreadful. And she's voiced a yellow giant in the cult sitcom Steven Universe. Really? I did not know that. And a socialite mouse on BoJack Horseman. I didn't know that either. The indie director Ari Aster cast her as Harridan Mother in Beau is Afraid, and last year she joined the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a witch in Agatha All Along. She doesn't give a shit about what anyone thinks, her coven mate Aubrey Plaza told me. Last fall, Plaza ended up living in her apartment at LuPone's urging while making her off-Broadway debut. Oh, I didn't know that. At LuPone's urging. Interesting. She basically kept me alive, Plaza said. I would wake up and she would be making me soup. One morning she was carving a turkey and she would go, "Doll, I have to go out of town for some gigs, but I'm going to carve this up and put it in the fridge. If you're going to make sandwiches with it throughout the week, ho!" I don't know why I went share. I'm so sorry. I'm not going to lie. Their Hot Ones episode with the two of them, probably one of my favorite videos on YouTube, hands down. They're such a fabulous, fascinating couple. Bridget Everett, the raunchy alt cabaret performer who starred in HBO's Somebody Somewhere, met LuPone through the director and lyricist Scott Whitman. LuPone brought Everett on stage at Carnegie Hall for a duet, and now they're developing a double act called Knockouts. You think of her as the greatest living Broadway legend, Everett told me. You don't think of her as a person. So when all of a sudden you're out in the country and she hops in the pool buck naked, you're like, okay, there's Patti LuPone, let's roll. Okay. After her dubbing session, LuPone collected her crocodile purse and got into an SUV on 8th Avenue. As it lurched past the theater district, she explained why she is, at least for now, done with Broadway. I'm so angry at whoever choked the stem right in the middle by making Times Square a pedestrian mall. Oh my God. But actually, I was there yesterday to see a show, and I was just walking, and I was like, I used to love this as a kid, but as a grown-up in the business, I hate it. I absolutely hate it. The worst place you could go. It's the place where people forget to know how to walk. I'm dead serious. They forget to know how to walk because they're so fucking overstimulated by all of the stuff around them. I'm going on a tangent and I'm so sorry. I will continue. When she was starring in Company, LuPone would carry a bullhorn and yell at pedestrians from her car window. It's impossible for us to get to work, she told me. I said that years ago, so I start work angry. I can't get to my theater because of the traffic pattern, because of the arrogance of people in the streets. It's a road. Get out of the street. Damn, girl. Damn, let them hear it in the cheap seats. She preferred the gritty old New York of the 60s and 70s when she moved from Long Island to make her name. Sure, the city was broke. Sure, there were muggers. Once, when a stranger groped her friend near Grant's tomb, LuPone turned she-lion, her word, and shrieked at the guy until he fled into Riverside Park. Sure, she heard a scream of death one night outside her window in Chelsea and knew that somebody was getting murdered. But the city was bankrupt, dangerous, and creative. She insisted. Okay, Carol. Now it's all gone, corporate, including the theater, which she worries has reverted to the gaiety phase of Broadway when it was just Follies and Ziegfeld girls. That is fascinating. Didn't I kind of make that comparison in my vaudeville video? Did I? Probably not. She's not wrong when it comes to theater becoming corporate, so you know. Oh my God, wait, I love this cartoon. Well, I'm gonna use bricks, but I'm getting a huge vicarious thrill from your plan. Oh my God, that's great. She's even angrier at the rest of the country. She told me more than once that the Trumpified Kennedy Center should get blown up. In the SUV, apropos the current administration, she pronounced leave New York alone. Make it its own country. I mean, is there any other city in America that's as diverse as In Your Face? It's a live or die city. It really is. Stick it out or leave. The car dropped her off at a restaurant on the Upper West Side. She asked for sherry. She discovered it while doing Les Miserables in England in the 80s. But the bartender said that they didn't carry it, so she settled for a glass of rosé with a side of ice cubes. Wow, she sounds like my mother. In person, LuPone is fun-seeking and dishy. She recalled one of her first trips into Manhattan to see St. Saëns, Samson and Delilah at the Met. They were two of the fattest people I've ever seen on stage, she told me. There was a bed, two very large singers, a male and a female, and a bowl of fruit on the bed. And all I could concentrate on was that bowl of fruit and when they were gonna knock it to the floor. She let out a big, booming ha! My grandmother does this all the time. I don't understand why we have to include the fact of whether or not people are overweight when retelling a story. I don't really see the point. Can't stand it. LuPone was snapped out of her reverie by two chatty young women at the next table. The whole city is so fucking loud, she groused. People have forgotten that they're in public. She leaned over to ask them politely but firmly, ladies, excuse me, do you mind keeping it down just a little bit? We're trying to have a conversation. They obeyed. Oh my God. She's my grandmother. She is my grandmother. This is insane. LuPone ordered a fried artichoke sliced in half. Wait, that sounds so good. I have a love-hate relationship with New York because of what it forces you to face, she went on. She likes that New Yorkers can sniff out a bullshitter, but her intolerance to bullshit gets her into trouble. On a woman, they don't like that smell, she said. People ask, why am I a gay icon? I go, don't ask me, ask them. But I think they see a struggle in me or how I've overcome a struggle. What else am I going to do? Okay. She picked apart the artichoke with her fingers. I've been punished for wondering what was going on since I was 4, she said again, punching her peas. The question was always why. The answer was not permitted. To this day, if I express myself in a way that somebody doesn't like, they will say, oh, that's Patti. She lowered her voice, narrowed her eyes like a tigress ready to pounce. What the fuck are you talking about? What do you know about me that you can say, well, that's Patti? And yet I never stopped asking the question, why? That's so funny she says that, because a lot of people are saying that as the excuse for her very inappropriate behavior of what she's about to talk about soon at some point. This is a long-ass article, Jesus. LuPone bristles when people call her a diva, which they often do. I know what I'm worth to a production, she says, her lips skewing diagonally in agitation. I know that I'm box office. Don't nickel and dime me before you put me on stage. Don't treat me like a piece of shit, because at this point, if you don't value me, why am I there? If LuPone is the New Yorkiest of Broadway stars, it's not just because of her powerhouse voice, it's because she fights her own battles, the way the city makes you fight through rush hour crowds. But she didn't ask for it to be this way. Why do I have to fight? She asked herself, tearing out the artichoke's heart. What am I learning in this life that I am atoning for from the last one? What is it that forces me to fight? Seriously, why wasn't it easier? Girl, it's theater. It's never easy. It's never been easy. Unless you are super freaking lucky and you have all the resources that you need. Last time I checked, she's not like financially struggling. So when people are like, why is it so hard? And you're able to like pay your rent, don't talk to me. LuPone's many oft recounted struggles began at 4 years old when she wandered off her family's property in Northport, Long Island to visit a friend. Crossing a field, she got sidetracked by some birds and butterflies. They're looking all over the place for you, her friend's father yelled when she arrived. When I got home, I saw police cars and fire engines. I hid under my bed, she recalled. When they found me, I got a serious spanking with no explanation. There was no dialogue. You did the wrong thing, smack, smack, but why? The LuPones lived on an apple orchard amid subdivided farmland. Northport back then was a small fishing village. At one point, the mayor was also the funeral director, with boggy wetlands and rocky bluffs overlooking the bay. This is like a TV series all rolled into one right here. Johnny Carson would sometimes moor his yacht there, and LuPone would buzz it with her father's boat, shouting, Johnny, hi! It was a bucolic place to grow up, but LuPone sensed a menacing energy, what she called the town's deep underbelly. Interesting. A furtive darkness ran in her family too. Her mother's parents, the Pattis, her first name is her mother's maiden name, were immigrant bootleggers. Their sewing room had removable floorboards to hide whiskey. LuPone learned that her maternal grandfather had been murdered in 1927, possibly with her grandmother's collusion. One newspaper reported that his body had been found in a pool of blood caused by 3 wounds in his head. All I knew was that, growing up, every Sunday, my mother would call my grandmother, and the two of them would talk in Italian, and my mother would be crying her eyes out, LuPone said. Why? What? This is insane. What is this? I do not remember this in her memoir. Her father, Orlando, was the principal of her elementary school, and her mother, who went by Pat, played the part of a Long Island housewife, LuPone said. Being a principal's wife required a hostess element, a facade, because she had to entertain the teachers. Once overhearing her parents fight, LuPone packed her books in a suitcase, stood at the kitchen door, and declared, "Goodbye, cruel world." Her parents divorced when she was 12, after Pat discovered that Orlando was having an affair with a substitute teacher. Damn. Oh, that's rough. LuPone remembers her mother herding her and her older twin brothers, Bobby and Billy, into a car and driving to a nearby town. We snuck up to this house and looked in the basement window, and there was my dad sitting in a chair and this woman sitting at his knees. And my mother put her fist through the cellar window, she said. She didn't see her father again for decades. Okay, so she has some trauma. My brothers were freaked out more than I was, LuPone recalled. I said to Bobby, honey, we're free to pursue show business now. Daddy wanted us to be teachers. I was like, no thanks. Pat drove her daughter to voice lessons, informing her that her great-grandaunt was the 19th century coloratura Adelina Patti. LuPone and her brothers had a dance group, the LuPone Trio, I think I remember this, which performed on Ted Mack's The Original Amateur Hour. They had an adagio act. Sorry. Her childhood friend Philip Caggiano said, I'm butchering up all of these Italian words, Bobby would heave Patti into the air and Billy would catch her. At school, she immersed herself in music, singing Hayden with the chorus and playing sousaphone in the marching band. I remember the cafeteria of our junior high school saying, I want to sing just like Earl Wrightson, Caggiano recalled, and Patti said, I want to sing like Patti LuPone. LOL, iconic. She knew that she had a Broadway-sized voice, but she was a closet rocker or a closet groupie, she said. On one New Year's Eve, she and a friend drove upstate to Saugerties in a blizzard to find the band, and we got so close. She moved to Manhattan at 18 and spent a year partying at discotheques, and then joined the inaugural class of the drama division at Juilliard, where her brother Bobby had studied dance. The drama program was run by the legendary actor-producer John Houseman, who had worked with Orson Welles. LuPone said John Houseman went out and found 36 of the craziest people he could find to see whether he could strip down their personalities and create a Juilliard actor. The training was incoherent. One teacher would espouse one method. Renee Auberjonois told them, acting is fucking, only to land a gig and be replaced by another teacher with a conflicting method. Of the original class, 13 graduated. They wanted to throw me out of school, so they threw all sorts of roles in my direction to make me fail as an actor, but what they did was train one actor in versatility, LuPone likes to say. Houseman criticized her diction, calling her flannel mouth, hence her compensatory over-enunciation, and once told her that she had the smell of the gallows. It was a compliment, but she was too intimidated to ask what it meant. I cried myself to sleep every night my first year. I remember reading that her time there was like really rough. Her third year, 3 advanced students joined the class. One was Kevin Kline. I took an instant dislike to him, LuPone recalled. He looked like Pinocchio to me. He had skinny legs and he was tall, and I didn't really see the handsomeness. That changed day one in art appreciation class when they sat together in the back and started feeling each other up, LuPone said. Their turbulent on and off relationship lasted 7 years. He was a Lothario, she recalled. It was a painful relationship. I was his girlfriend when he wanted me to be his girlfriend. But if there was somebody else, he would break up with me and go out with that person, and I, for some reason, stuck it out until I couldn't stick it out anymore. Klein remembered the relationship as fraught. We fought all the time, he told me. In the company, we were known as the Strindbergs! That's hilarious. After graduation in 1972, the drama class formed a repertory troupe called the Acting Company. They do comedy of manners in Saratoga, Chekhov in Omaha. Patti was always pissed that whenever there was a whore to play, she usually got the whore's part. The troupe also played Broadway, where in 1975, LuPone and Klein starred in the musical The Robber Bridegroom. Oh, I forgot about that. That's how they did that. Random. She received her first Tony nomination the same season that her brother Bobby was nominated for playing the director in A Chorus Line. I didn't realize that was the same year. That's so cool. I always found it so cool that she had a sibling in the same business. I'm always so curious of like what it's like having a sibling in the same line of work as you. I just assumed that like Patti and Bobby had like a really special relationship because of that. After 4 years, she and 10 other company members rebelled against their overseers and quit en masse, like America breaking away from the British Empire, LOL. While touring, LuPone met a young playwright, David Mamet, who cast her, Klein, and Sautsuvas in his play All Men Are Whores at Yale Cabaret. LuPone felt at home with Mamet's dialogue, its raw aggression, and gave language to her own. The writing, once I understood the rhythm, became the easiest thing to speak, she said. I learned more about acting from David Mamet than I learned in 4 years at Juilliard. Despite their divergent politics, Mamet has gone MAGA. Their collaboration has endured. Interesting. Maybe I'll do a video on David Mamet. He's fascinating. In response to several written questions, Mamet sent me back the following. Opening night on Broadway of The Old Neighborhood, I was looking for Patti around 7 p.m. and found her on stage asleep in the kitchen counter of the set. I understood it as a Sicilian panic attack. In 1979, LuPone won the role of Evita Peron, the power-hungry First Lady of Argentina, in Andrew Lloyd Webber's musical Evita. It was, she recalled, a vitriolic experience. The score was so punishing that she blew out her voice days before the LA tryout. A doctor told her that her vocal cords looked like raw hamburger meat. The director, Hal Prince, wanted her to play Ava as cold and unsmiling, contrary to her instincts. She had a matinee alternate who she was convinced was gunning for her job, and some of the dancers kept telling telling her how Elaine Page had done the part in London. I said, stop right there. Let me figure it out for myself, she recalled. That must be really hard. And that seems to be like a very similar thing with doing a show in London, having someone so iconic play the role. They don't stay with the production. They bring someone else in and everyone else just like comparing the newbie to the OG. That must be really fucking hard. So I made enemies in rehearsal. This, she believes, forged her reputation as a prima donna. I had maybe 3 allies in this company. It was Beirut from my dressing room to the stage. I had no support. I faced this trial by fire by myself. I spoke to former Evita chorus boy who remembered LuPone as a bit of a mess and undisciplined and driving Hal crazy. But he also told a story that validated her sense of being messed with. After a rainy day of rehearsal, she shared a taxi with her and they became chummy. Then Prince's general manager ordered him to keep his distance from the leading lady. I was very upset. I thought it had come from Patti, that I had offended her. So from that minute on, I absolutely iced her. In retrospect, I realized they wanted to control her by isolating her. Fascinating. Hal Prince is fascinating, y'all. He's also someone I want to make a video on. He's, oh man, goddamn. As much as I idolize him and his career and like wanting to have, you know, just as much success as he did in his life. From what I'm noticing, the way that he treats women specifically, leading women, specifically with LuPone and especially Madeline Kahn. The show made LuPone an overnight star. She won the Tony and everyone from Ava Gardner to Andy Warhol flocked to her dressing room, but she never made peace with the pain. They say it's the way you learn, she said, but is it necessary? It hurt so much. One way she coped with the stress was hockey. Work. On Sunday nights when Evita was dark, LuPone would go to Rangers games at Madison Square Garden, where the Times reported in 1982 she became a regular in section 27AA. Okay, there's a lot of like hockey shit going on in here, and I'm just gonna skip through it. Going back to Evita. After the first period with the Leafs, ahead 2-1, she retired to a VIP lounge and recalled her Evita days. At curtain call, she said her applause would dip after the ovation for Mandy Patinkin, who played the populist narrator Che. I had to convince myself it was because I was so good in the part that they couldn't make up their minds how they felt about me. People thought I was a blonde bitch, a fascist, a Nazi sympathizer. Really? To make herself feel better, she started performing a midnight cabaret act on Saturdays after the show at the Chelsea club Les Mouches. She would cover Petulia Clark and Patti Smith and let her wild side run free. I was a desire for people to see who I really was. Oh my goodness. At the second intermission, with the Leafs up 4-2, the announcer welcomed a couple of excited children who had won rides on the Zambonis. Who gives a shit? LuPone bellowed. She had an early flight, so she left. Let me know who wins. She deadpan. Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay, she then has it sounds like she has like a rehearsal for a concert that she has and whatnot, blah, blah, blah. Okay, her 80s career had its ups and downs. She left Evita after 21 months because I lost my sense of humor, she said. She declined an offer to play Lady Macbeth at Lincoln Center. I said, haven't I just been playing her for 2 years? And instead went into As You Like It at the Guthrie in Minneapolis because she wanted to work with the Romanian director Liviu Siule. During that show's run, she got kicked out of Prince's nightclub after she screamed at some people who were booing her cousin's punk band. She played Harrison Ford's sister in Witness, but Hollywood's interest in her was intermittent. At one point, she starred in a dead-end TV pilot as a singing ghost who haunts a laundromat. I saw that on an Instagram reel, and I could not believe that that was real. Oh my god, that was insane. Nearly a dozen fizzled plays after Evita, she was cast as Fantine in the Royal Shakespeare Company's premiere of Les Miserables in London. It was a runway hit, but she chose not to remain with the show when it went to Broadway because her experience with the RSC was so perfect that she didn't want to taint it. I've never known whether I've made the right decision, she told this empty space crowd when someone picked I Dreamed a Dream from the hat. In 1989, she went to LA to start in the ABC drama Life Goes On as the suburban mother of a son with Down syndrome. For 4 years, she wrote in her memoir, I played a docile mom in a patriarchal family. By the series' end, she was bored, silly, and no longer on speaking terms with her on-screen husband. Scott Whitman was helping her devise a solo act when she landed what seemed like the part of a lifetime, Norma Desmond in the musical version of Sunset Boulevard. Ah, yes. It turned out to be the biggest debacle of her career. Her London reviews were mixed. Frank Rich in the Times called her miscast and unmoving. Meanwhile, Lloyd Webber had cast Glenn Close in the concurrent LA production. LuPone thought it was a ploy to gin up a rivalry, and Close's wraith-like approach won raves. LuPone was contracted tried to follow the role to Broadway, but she found out from Liz Smith's column that she was being dumped for Close. The repudiation mirroring Hollywood's abandonment of Norma only deepened her remaining performances in London. I felt rejection, but not that kind of rejection, LuPone said. Years later, at the Kennedy Center tribute to Barbara Cook, Close took a seat next to LuPone. She said, "I had nothing to do with it," LuPone recalled. "I wanted to go bullshit, bitch." The recovery was hard. LuPone took out her fury on her husband, Matt Johnston. "It almost broke up our marriage," she said. They met when she was playing Lady Bird Johnson in a TV movie, and he was a camera assistant. They married on the set of Anything Goes. She went on Prozac. After a hike one day, a blood vessel in her left vocal cord burst, and she needed surgery and intensive rehabilitation. "It's almost like she had to start from scratch," recalled Whitman, who directed her in a 1995 concert run, Patti LuPone on Broadway. Despite stray successes, a stint as Maria Callas in the play Masterclass, a topless role in Spike Lee's Summer of Sam. By the early 2000s, her agents couldn't get her seen for a TV pilot. Her comeback came courtesy of Stephen Sondheim. They had socialized in Connecticut, where both had houses, but she said, "I thought he hated me. He once slammed a door in her face." Sondheim liked getting stoned in her barn with her husband. Iconic. She played Mrs. Lovett in an acclaimed Broadway revival of Sweeney Todd. The actors played their own instruments, allowing LuPone to show off her tuba chops, and then Madame Rose, the mother of all mothers in Gypsy. She brought brass and rage and woundedness to Rose, a woman whose struggles, much like LuPone's, are as self-perpetuated as they are riveting. Heading into her 60s, LuPone was on a high, her salty bravado now part of her legend. During her penultimate performance in Gypsy, she stopped the show to scold a photographer. "How dare you? Who do you think you are?" The photos were part of a planned magazine feature, but whatever. I remember getting that audio recording sent to me, and I just remember everyone being like, "Oh my god, how iconic, look at her." Yes, we fucking hate it when people take prohibited recordings and photos and whatnot, but this woman was there to do her job. Everyone should have been notified beforehand. That's kind of required with equity rules, I think, too. I don't know, girl. I don't know. Anyways, her newfound cachet coupled with her adventurous tastes brought her to unexpected places. Jack Schaefer, the creator of Agatha All Along, was looking for a Patti LuPone type before realizing that she could get the real thing. She infiltrated all of these counterculture spaces, Schaefer said. Ari Aster cast her as Joaquin Phoenix's mother, Mona, in Beau is Afraid after seeing her on Broadway in Mammoth's The Anarchist. I actually really want to see Beau is Afraid. I've heard that her performance in that is really quite good. I'd written for Mona an endless, withering monologue that was meant to be very theatrical and histrionic and grandiloquent. Damn, people using really intricate words while also being born of a deep, real pain and anger, Aster told me. Her sudden appearance also needed to function as something of a punchline, and having the architect of Beau's misery be Patti LuPone really made me laugh. So basically they talk about how she has a house in Connecticut and she has an apartment in Central Park West, which is good for her. I talked to myself a lot, she told me. Why? Don't ask me. But I actually talked about Hal Prince in my head today. The conversation was about how he had tormented her during Evita. That stuff doesn't go away. It sits there going, why? As much as quarrelsome defiance has become part of her persona, it was striking to hear that it lingers when she's alone with her thoughts. As she sipped her sherry, a lifetime of grievance and self-pity, all evidence of her success to the contrary, seemed to well up in her. I was dealt the hard hand in everything, she lamented. So I say this life is about figuring that out. The next life is going to be easier. She went on, we start in life vulnerable, then we are accosted, and then we put up the barriers. We put up the armor. I've never lost my vulnerabilities, so the shock continues. I firmly believe this. It's better to fail because you learn so much more. If you are anointed, you have nowhere to go. Failure makes you investigate. Failure moves you to the next step. In the meantime, the battles were unrelenting. She had told me about co-starring with Mia Farrow in The Two Women Play The Roommate last fall. There was a little bit of bullshit that went down, and then I washed my hands of a couple of people in the business. One of them, I found out later, was a press agent who, after an offstage blow-up, grabbed a bottle of champagne from his office and gave it to LuPone to make amends. He did not realize that the label read Happy Opening Sunset Boulevard. Oh, that's rough. The roommate shared a wall with a neighboring show, Hell's Kitchen, the Alicia Keys musical, and sound would bleed through. At her stage manager's suggestion, LuPone called Robert Wankel, the head of the Schubert organization, and asked him if he could fix the noise problem. Once it was taken care of, she sent thank you flowers to the musical's crew. She was surprised then when Keisha Lewis, an actress in Hell's Kitchen, posted a video on Instagram speaking as one veteran to another and called LuPone's actions bullying, racially microaggressive, and rooted in privilege because she had labeled a black show loud. I mean, facts. I am shocked that the stage manager suggested this, though, and I wonder if that is true. Oh my God, LuPone said, balking when I brought up the incident. Here's the problem. She calls herself a veteran. Let's find out how many shows Keisha Lewis has done, because she doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about. She Googled. She's done 7. I've done 31. Don't call yourself a vet, bitch. The correct numbers are actually 10 and 28, but who's counting? My 2 cents. If you've done like at least, 2 Broadway shows, you're considered a veteran. Oh no, Patti. Oh, girl. She explained of the noise problem. This is not unusual on Broadway. This happens all the time when walls are shared. Those 2 theaters have been sharing a wall since the dawn of time, since both of those theaters were built. So I don't understand why of all the shows that there have been issues of noise complaints, I don't understand why it had to be this specific show. Just my 2 cents. I mentioned that Audra McDonald, the Tony-decorated Broadway star, had given the supportive emojis. This interviewer, interesting. Why would you bring her up? That's so oy vey. Exactly, LuPone said, and I thought you should know better. That's typical of Audra. She's not a friend. Hard D. The 2 singers had some long ago rift, LuPone said, but she didn't want to elaborate. When I asked what she had thought of McDonald's current production of Gypsy, she stared at me in silence for 15 seconds, then turned to the window and sighed, "What a beautiful day." And as we know now, Audra is like, I have no idea what she's talking about. You have to ask Patti what she's talking about. It was in Central Park. New Yorkers were strolling among the apple blossoms. Oh, people sitting by themselves, lonely as hell, LuPone observed, peering from her window. Ha! Just lonely as hell out there. She was ready for a nap. As I walked out, she announced, "Ah, my darling, I'm taking to my bed." Wow. Okay, so that was the article. I think Michael was trying to stir up some drama with the Audra stuff. That's just my tea of the fact that, he brought it up. I didn't realize that he did that. Anyways, just my 2 cents. I don't think Keisha Lewis made any sort of response, but I do remember that she did post a video on Instagram of her making the remark that on 44th Street, it's basically all shows that are led by Black women. And then Purpose won the Pulitzer Prize for drama. I thought that was really interesting. As I said earlier, Audra had an interview with Gail on CBS Sunday, I think, and she said, I don't know what she's talking about. But now we see that she has issued an apology. But before we get to the apology, there was an open letter that's been circulating throughout the industry. I'm reading off of Playbill. The letter has received over 500 signatures, which basically addresses the Broadway League, the American Theater Wing, and the greater theater community. It characterized LuPone's comments about Lewis and McDonald as degrading and misogynistic. It is a blatant act of racial disrespect. It constitutes bullying. It constitutes harassment. It is emblematic of the microaggressions and abuse that people in this industry have endured far too long, too often without consequence. The letter also says that LuPone's comments are part of a pattern in the theater industry which has a persistent failure to hold people accountable for violent, disrespectful, or harmful behavior, especially when they are well known or powerful. I agree. But now we are going to see what the hell her apology looks like. Oh, she wrote this on an Instagram post. I didn't realize that she had one. For as long as I have worked in the theater, I have spoken my mind and never apologized. That is changing today. I am deeply sorry for the words I used during the New Yorker interview, particularly about Keisha Lewis, which were demeaning and disrespectful. I regret my flippant and emotional responses during this interview, which were inappropriate, and I am devastated that my behavior has offended others and has run counter to what we hold dear in this community. I hope to have the chance to speak to Audra and Keisha personally to offer my sincere apologies. I wholeheartedly agree with everything that was written in the open letter shared yesterday. From middle school drama clubs to professional stages, theater has always been about lifting each other up and welcoming those who feel they don't belong anywhere else. I made a mistake. I take full responsibility for it, and I am committed to making this right. Our entire theater community deserves better. Patti LuPone. What a great letter from a publicist. This is the correct response. Oh, Pandora box, why? This is how you apologize, hoping you all can move forward and celebrate and share the amazing talents you have. A lot of white people in these comments leaving heart emojis and accepting the apology as if it's our place to do so. I guess it's a good start, but let's not gag too hard over a PR apology. Wow. Plasma. Oh my god. Andrew Reynolds? Girl. Oh my god. This is wild. Okay, so that was a lot. My immediate 2 cents, I think Patti is just bitter. And I think she was hoping that her career would have skyrocketed in a different manner. I can relate to her in terms of like being in love with the theater since we were born and like wanting to be a part of the community and whatnot, and maybe feeling a little bit, not ostracized, but isolated. But her behavior is no excuse. The way that she just like bullied and put down 2 Black women who are so prominent in the theater and are so respected. I mean, Audra McDonald is one of the most Tony-nominated actors in history, so I wouldn't be surprised if Patti is bitter about that. I wouldn't be surprised if she's bitter that people really love this new revival of Gypsy. I'm surprised that you didn't bring anything up about Sunset, although I do find it really fucking hilarious that they got a bottle of champagne that says happy opening Sunset Boulevard. The irony, oh my god. But yeah, it's kind of inexcusable, and her apology sounds very PR based, which is again also not a surprise, and it's just sad. As someone who was like a huge fan of hers growing up, I read her memoir within 3 days. I kind of like always envisioned her as someone who like always stood up for herself and wouldn't take any bullshit. But the more that I've like been in this business and has grown as like an artist, I realized that that's just like coming from a place of a lot of hurt, and instead of dealing with it in like a healthier manner, she instead decides to berate and bully other people around her, and that's really sad, and it's something that I don't really agree with. It's really interesting watching how many people are reacting to this as well, because like one Instagram fan account was like, it's obvious that she's really hurting. I don't condone her behavior, but I really hope that she's okay because it's obvious that she's hurting right now. And it's like, girl, even if you are hurting, you don't have to bring people down with you. You don't have to do that. This could have been dealt in like such a different way, and also you could just be nicer. You could just be a nice person. It's like a freaking concept. I mean, like, why do you think your career in theater is so hard? Maybe be nicer to people? I don't know. Granted, like, maybe she really got screwed over from her time in Evita and like how Prince treated her, and how like, you know, hearing that story of them wanting to like isolate her in this production, like maybe she got really triggered and traumatized from that. And, you know, and hearing her childhood, that definitely wasn't like a very great upbringing. So I wouldn't be surprised if that got trickled into her, you know, horrible behavior. It doesn't justify it. Just something that I'm observing anyways. And also like she even left the union. She left Actors Equity like years ago because she was just so done with theater then, but then she came back to do The Roommate under like special agreement, I'm assuming. And now she's saying, I'm really done with theater. And I think it's just because she hasn't had a great experience with it, and that's really sad. But at the same time, it's like her career is not going to go anywhere. She's still going to get hired for stuff. She's still going to do her concerts. People are still going to love her no matter what. Now that she has this apology, like all of her fans that aren't going to go anywhere are like, great, awesome, now we have a reason to stay. It's sad. I used to look up to this woman, and now I see her as someone not to look up to in terms of how they treat others and her demeanor. I think she just had a very unfortunate time in this career that she grew up loving from afar, and then doing it, she realized, oh, it's actually not what I was hoping it would be. That's just my 2 cents. But I'm gonna leave that there. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, give it a little like. Leave a comment in the below. Let me know what you think about this whole debacle. Like, absolutely wild. And if you're liking what we do here, feel free to join the family and subscribe. With all that said, may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be safe and at ease and free from harm. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.